Spoilers for the story of ROBOCOP Unfinished Business. Since ROBOCOP Unfinished Business is an expansion of Rogue City, I'm not going to go through what I already said in my Rogue City review. I love the combat in that game and how it made me feel like ROBOCOP, but I already talked enough about that. I'm going to focus on what's different in Unfinished Business, what works and what doesn't. What doesn't work, objectively, is the game itself. At least for me, I had a lot more performance problems than I did in Rogue City. Loading skips are abundant. They're real bad. I also experience a bug every time I want to switch my secondary weapon. If I already had one, I wasn't allowed to switch it out for anything else the whole chapter. This made the game way less fun because a lot of those weapons are really cool. The grenade launcher, the heavy-mounted machine gun, plus the new ones like the cryo gun and the minigun, the latter of which I never got to use even once because I was never allowed to pick it up. I had a stupid assault rifle or whatever, so I couldn't switch it out. I also never got to use the rocket launcher. This bug made several late-game combat sections boring and frustrating because they're obviously designed to be taken on by power weapons that I can't pick up. There's a part where you lose your pistol, and I ended up running out of ammo for the rifle I was using, unable to pick up any other weapons, just running around with no way to take on the armored guy and the snipers on the second floor. Just a terrible, terrible bug. I'm sure it'll be fixed, but this was my experience and it was really harmed by this. But hey, when things were getting me down, at least I got to enjoy some gnarly visual bugs. Whoa! I'm gonna shift out of the negativity for a bit to talk about some positives, but it won't be long before we're back to the negatives. I like the villain, Graves. I don't think they do much with him that's interesting in the actual story, but I like him as a concept for an antagonist. He's an old partner of Murphy from his Metro South days, and he's turned into this Punisher-style bad guy that wants to hijack OCP products and use them in a vigilante-style cleansing of all the city's criminals. The story flashback with Murphy's old crew is the story highlight of the game. Graves makes his partners uncomfortable with his views on vigilante justice, making the point that these criminals just get out and do it again. You know, Punisher ideology. During a crime bust, there's a door that's rigged to explode, killing one of the cops. It's a genuinely tragic scene, with her leaving her broken family watch to Graves, telling him to fix it in her dying words. Fix it brilliantly meaning to fix the watch, of course, but also in the mind of Graves, this means to fix this horrible world. When you see Graves in the main game, he sports this officer's fixed watch. During the flashback arrest, the crime boss taunts Graves over and over, promising to get out and target his family. Graves loses his cool and shoots the guy in the head. This of course gets him kicked off the force, and here he is now, leading a group of mercenaries trying to enact a new form of street justice with their occupation of the new OCP tower. It's a really good setup for conflict, and he's partnered with a scientist named Miranda that worked on the ROBOCOP program before the events of the first movie, but left due to moral objections. Turns out she was involved in the identification of Murphy and others as prime candidates for the ROBOCOP program, but she had no idea that Bob Morton was going to actively place these officers in harm's way to speed up the program. She feels responsible for Murphy's death and wishes he could forgive her. She too is a really interesting character, once we get past the opening hours of her just nagging ROBOCOP with a to-do list. And the game lets us spend time as Miranda in a flashback, where she's walking home and gets assaulted by two punks on the street. She runs from them, getting cut off and running into dead ends. It's an effectively scary sequence. I don't think I've ever seen a game present an assault like this, and I imagine this would be a very difficult thing to play if you're a victim of assault. Especially since she does not get away. She is slashed multiple times with a knife, and though we don't see anything else, we assume some far worse things happened to her that night. The trauma of that night led her on a similar path as Graves, and after she learns about him, she takes her ideas to him in an attempt to help his cause. She knows that ROBOCOP has a backdoor in his programming that connects to the OCP mainframe, and if they can capture him, they can use him to take control of other OCP products and turn them into their personal robot army of street justice, leading to an awesome sequence where ROBOCOP, through Miranda's assistance, remotely pilots an Ed 209 unit. The opening of the game shows the police station totally destroyed, all the cops slaughtered, several frozen, and the payoff to this is that we learn the technology was being developed as an anti-ROBOCOP weapon to capture him for the master plan, but since it was an early model, it wasn't powerful enough to stop him from breaking out. The killing of the cops is what pushes Miranda over the edge to lose faith in Graves and second-guess her decision to join him. Miranda speaks to ROBOCOP for the opening hours, at that point a stranger, a mysterious voice helping you along. But ultimately, her clues lead to your capture by Graves. She comes to regret what she's done, seeing how human ROBOCOP still is, and near the end, when Graves needs a diversion so he can escape, he puts her in a trap designed to distract ROBOCOP, playing on his goodwill. She knows that Robo will not let her die, so she sacrifices herself, partly due to the guilt she's built up over the years, and partly to make sure Graves is stopped since he's gotten so out of control and merciless. I gotta say, I absolutely love what these characters add to the world of ROBOCOP. There's only so much you can do with Murphy as a character, so it's a smart decision to focus on other people. In a sort of Mad Max way, the sequels aren't about Max, they're about the people he meets. Unfortunately, the story itself isn't nearly as interesting as the characters and their origins. Graves doesn't really do much outside of typically power-hungry bad guy stuff. There's a long side plot about an insurrection amongst his mercenary army that's pretty boring and just doesn't add anything to what we already know. Walking around the facility as a soldier in a long flashback trying to get access codes, it feels like a waste of time. Actually, a lot of this game is just looking for access codes and keycards. It's like 90% of what you do. You talk to someone about a keycard and they say, go talk to another guy. And they say, go talk to this other guy. Well, that guy's dead, so you gotta go talk to somebody else. Then you gotta solve the murder and talk to people again. It's so slow and tedious, I wanted to quit the entire game at that point. The characters you interact with in ROBOCOP Unfinished Business are beyond boring. I'm not saying Rogue City was perfect, far from it, but what it had going for it in spades was charm. Half the appeal of Rogue City was the feeling of living a day in the life of ROBOCOP. Patrolling the street of future Detroit, you felt like you were in the movies. And you interacted with genuinely interesting and fun characters, whether they be people from the movies, or your new partner, or funny drug addicts, or whoever on the street. Your decisions changed what happened to them as the story went on. You could even affect the political fate of the city by taking sides in the mayoral election featuring the mayor from ROBOCOP 2. You went through several compelling character moments of Murphy dealing with his death and the loss of his family, there was Lewis in the hospital, and you did interviews choosing answers that determined his emotional state. There was a lot going on in that game that made up for the many faults it did have. In this expansion mission, not only is every single character interaction outside of the main antagonist painfully dull and tedious, the world itself is sterile. You spend the whole game in the OCP tower, so nearly the entire experience is just walking through rooms and hallways of concrete. And for the people just chomping at the bit to bring up The Raid and Dread, yes, I like those movies a lot. And the reason I don't get tired of those locations when I do an Unfinished Business is because those movies are tightly paced adventures that come in under an hour and 40 minutes. Unfinished Business is like 8 hours long, so please forgive me for getting tired of the location. I miss the wide variety of levels and aesthetics in Rogue City. And when the spaces you go through are all the same, and all the people you meet are generic, and every mission is just go talk to this guy and find the passcode, the only thing left to enjoy is the combat. Which is great, but they already nailed it in the first game. You have no new skill trees, you have no new special abilities, the detective missions are worse than they were in the first game, there's no one new in the tower to actually care about, there are no multiple endings to the story or different fates for the characters, so you're not affecting the world anymore. The only new stuff I experienced were the guns that I couldn't use half the time because of the weapon pickup bug. There are some new enemies that don't really add new dynamics to the combat, except the flying guys who are fun to explode. But other than that, it's just annoying drones that fly and roll on the ground. They are never ever fun to fight. And we have ninjas from ROBOCOP 3 who are entirely pathetic. They are the easiest threat in the game because they just run at you and you throw them away. Look, I know ROBOCOP 3 sucks, but does that mean the enemy you bring in from that movie has to suck in the game too? Oh, but Mayo, you may say, there's a new combat feature, environmental takedowns. Oh man, this is one of the biggest disappointments. On paper, the idea of being able to kill punks with a variety of objects like neon signs, garbage chutes, and soda machines sounds like it would be awesome. And functionally it does work, because some enemies are too heavy to just grab, so if they're next to a hazard you can do a takedown and that's pretty cool. But there are 3 problems with how they actually executed this takedown mechanic. Number 1, it takes away your ability to throw people. If you're holding an enemy and you just want to throw them, which is an important part of the game's strategy on high difficulty, if you're standing next to a hazard, the throw button will instead choose the takedown animation, completely ruining your intended move. It will also prioritize a different enemy standing next to that hazard, causing you to drop the guy you are holding, meaning he'll be right behind you when it's over. This happens when hitting either the throw button or the fire button. It can't be avoided. Number 2, it ruins the feeling of immersion these games give you. That feeling of being ROBOCOP. Seeing Murphy in cutscenes and dialogue is fine, but during the action you should not be taking me out of the first-person perspective. I do not feel like I'm performing these actions. I feel like I'm taking a break to watch ROBOCOP do it, which just kills the impact. And number 3, it's jarring and disorienting because these takedown animations involve multiple camera cuts that flip the perspective around so much that you lose your sense of space from where you were before you did them. I've seen this room from 3 different camera angles in 2 seconds, and now I'm back to the original angle and I can't remember who was around me or what my next target was going to be. Look, I love ROBOCOP, that much should be crystal clear. I've covered all the movies, the Prime Directive series, the reboot, and I interviewed the directors of the ROBOCOP documentary. I thought Rogue City was really good, but Unfinished Business just doesn't get it right. I love the villain backstories, the combat is still really fun, but the rest of it is pretty disappointing. It's quite daring to put the word unfinished in the title of your product when it feels like it's missing so much of what made the core experience great, and it has ugly performance issues and a bug that doesn't let you pick up other weapons. I'm sorry, but this just doesn't hit the mark. Sorry, Taeon, I've seen what you can do and I believe you'll get it right next time. We all make mistakes, we're only human.